Hockey may be Canada's game, but some really ugly stuff has come out over the past few years about hockey culture that doesn't make anyone proud. Justin Davis considered himself lucky to rise through the ranks all the way to play professionally, but after he'd finished his run in the game, he came to see it quite differently. He writes about that in his new book. It's called Conflicted Scars, an average player's journey to the NHL. And Justin Davis joins us now. First of all, welcome. It's great to meet you. Great to have you here.
Glad to be here.
The first thing I thought of when I saw the subtitle of your book is, you are not an average player. You know that, right?
Yeah, I think it's you're taught to be humble when you play. So the higher the level you get, you realize maybe you weren't as good as the other players. So you see yourself as that player, and you don't recognize you may be better than the other.
You may be, Justin.
Maybe better than the other.
You're one of the top, even though you were not Wayne Gretzky, right. You are one of the top, like 0.000001 best players in the world. You are.
Yeah, and I guess the book's here to remind me of that, but yeah, it's definitely been a journey.
Here is what you write in the book, and I must confess, I have read a lot of hockey books, and I have never read a line like this before. You write, "The truth is, I think I hate hockey. I hated hockey at many points when I played. I hated it at the end of my career, and I think I hate it now. The game of hockey is broken. It leaves scars inside us we keep hidden, and only now am I ready to talk about it." You are how old?
44.
How come only now?
I think when you evaluate yourself as you get older, I think you bury a lot of things inside. And as my son started to come the age that 16, 17, when I went through a lot of the stuff that I'd buried deep inside, I realized that the reason I carry so much weight and anxiety and bouts of depression and my body hurts when I wake up is because of hockey. And even though it gave me the profile and the fame at times that it did, I hate the fact what it's done to me and where I'm going through some things I'm going through right now.
Even with all of, and we will get into some of the details. I read the book. It's shocking what you've been through. Any concerns about saying out loud what you have said out loud in this book?
Oh, of course. I mean, when I wrote it, it was like, you're always taught what's said in the room stays in the room. So when I wrote the book, it was initially just to my kids, and so that they knew who their dad was in case memory issues kept popping up along the way. And
you got 3 kids, 2 teenagers, and 1 who's almost a teenager.
Yep, you got it. And so it was just kind of a story to them that I thought nobody would see. And in 15 years, maybe we pull it out of the drawer and I give it to them. And so of course there's a fear as soon as someone says we're going to publish this and people are going to read about your life. I'm a teacher, so when I walk down the hall, kids I teach know some of the kind of the horrors or things that I grew up with and some of the things that I've done. But the feedback's been fantastic, and teammates as always have been supporting, and I've had a great avenue just to talk.
I had a lot of teachers back in the day. I don't remember any who were 6'4", how much you weigh?
Well, we'll say 220, we'll be generous.
6'4", 220. But anyway, let's face it, there are a lot of people who have experienced in the game what you experienced. Not just the bullying, not just the hazing, not just the difficulties dealing with coaches, not just the sort of, it didn't work out, some things the way you'd hoped. But they don't say out loud they hate hockey. Why do you think your experience might be different from theirs?
I think I just hit a point where I'm just comfortable with who I am. I got together last Friday night for wings with a couple former teammates, and we had no problem sitting around the room talking about some great stories and things that happened. And the book's been a great avenue for us to talk about the bad things that happened. So now we're talking about that behind closed doors, and it's opened up some eyes of what happened to us. So I think it's been good that way, and people are just starting to talk. But I think we're all afraid to expose things. And I said I'm 44 years old, and I talk about a coach in the book, and I got a phone call from him wanting to talk about some things that had been written. And
is this one of the coaches you named or didn't name?
I didn't name, but I sat there as a 44-year-old, 3 kids and a teacher, and I was afraid to take the phone call because I still kind of had that fear inside me. So when we talk about why we don't talk, I think we're still feel like we're under control of some of these people, and it's only now that we're starting to feel comfortable with ourselves.
Well, let's go back and tell a bit of the story, and then people will get a better understanding of why your feelings about hockey are so mixed these days. It started, I guess, in Flamborough. Yes. You were a phenomenal hockey player. You were scoring 200 plus points in seasons with 50 games. I mean, it was crazy, racking up scoring records amazingly. And yet you said everybody hated you. Why did they hate you?
Times were different back then, where small town people played hockey in small towns. Our parents didn't drive us 100 kilometers to a practice and didn't have NHL dreams when we were 5 or 6. So where I might now be playing AAA hockey, I was playing single A hockey and scoring and scoring and scoring. And I think parents are always jealous that either their son isn't doing the same things or that you're selfish and they want to bring you down to their level. So
Parents on the other teams?
my own team and other teams. I remember I talk in the book about even at the age of 5 or 6, walking out of the arena with my head down or going out back doors or winning an MVP of a game and putting it in my bag and just trying to walk out to the car and meeting my parents there just because you're embarrassed or you just don't want to interact with people in the lobby. And then I thought that was normal. And looking back, like I said, my own kid coming out of the arena, you just realize how naive you were to everything. And it is a huge chapter in my life on things I'm dealing with even to this day.
When you're a 5-year-old kid and you look up in the stands and you see a hockey mom giving you 2 birds and frothing at the mouth, swearing at you, what goes through your mind?
Well, I think you're just wondering first what's wrong with the person and why are they so angry. But I mean, you go to sporting events now and you still go to minor hockey and there's some people that have lost a lot of perspective on the game and why their kid is there.
How much of the broken aspects of hockey today would you lay at the feet of parents who just really don't understand that this is supposed to be a fun game for kids?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of it. And I think the majority of these people are people who have never played the game, have never played the game at a high level. So they feel like their coach or their parents didn't put enough money in and their kid's going to be the next one. And the more money they put in, the more time and the more pressure they put on, they're going to become Connor McDavid. But these are generational players. And I talk all the time about the best part of hockey should be driving in the car with your kids and stopping for a milkshake or a burger after the game or having conversations that you normally don't have. I mean, I have a 17-year-old son. If it wasn't for sports, I wouldn't spend 10 hours a week with them in the car, but that's something that we have. And if they make it, they make it. But if not, I mean, it's a relationship you get to have with your kids.
I remember Brendan Shanahan once telling the story about how when his dad dropped him off at games, his dad would sit up in the very top row and read the paper during the games. And Brendan, I think at the time, thought, why isn't he interested? And then with the benefit of hindsight, realized, actually, that was exactly the right approach to take. Make sense?
Yeah, and I said in the foreword of the book, like, I apologize that I'm the guy sitting by myself all the time, but I just want to watch them play, and I don't want to get caught up in the other stuff. And I laughed. My dad, when I played junior hockey, used to stand in the same spot, and he stood by himself, but I knew if I wasn't playing well and I looked up in the second period, sometimes he'd be gone. And I remember him telling me that I knew if he didn't have a good first couple of periods, it wasn't worth staying for the third period. So he meant well, but there's obviously a different side too.
Let's talk hazing.
Yeah.
A real curtain has been pulled back on the whole hazing thing, these initiations that a lot of teams put their, I guess, particularly rookies through. For those who don't follow this stuff, give us an example of some of the crap you went through.
Well, I think from early ages, I played junior C, junior B, junior A, and OHL hockey. So each year I got initiated. Everything was from the basics of getting your head shaved, your entire body being shaved. It seemed that when looking back on it, everything involved nudity or walking around naked or different things happening. And I think the one component most people talk about is the hot box that used to happen in major junior hockey, where all the rookies would strip down at the same time, walk to the back of the bus, and they'd stand in the bus bathroom with the heat on, and they'd go 10, 20, 30 minutes to hour to 2 hours in the bus bathroom, and when there's a knock on the door, you could come out. So stuff like that was cyclical, and you didn't realize it was a badge of honor. You thought that everybody did that, but looking back on it, you realize just how crazy that was.
Looking back on it, I mean, I guess the idea behind it was that it's one of these teams that one of these things everybody participates in, and it builds team spirit. Did it ever do that in your experience?
No, I think if anything, it might have made you feel closer to the guys that were in the bathroom with you, and you thought it was this badge of honor. But looking back, I mean, there's other things that could have happened that would have provided the same avenue. And my son plays baseball for one of the top baseball team in the province, the Great Lake Canadians out of London. And I drop him off as a 17-year-old. And I don't think of him being bullied or being in a bus bathroom or being hazed. And these are 8 coaches that teach character and integrity. And so then I look back on that and think, why would I be afraid to drop him off at a hockey game? Or why were these things happening to me? And you realize hockey is just its own sport. And it's these traditions that have been passed on. No 17-year-old thinks to themselves, we should stick 6 people in the bathroom, or we should make them run around naked. These are just things that have been passed on through decades.
Is hazing out of the game now, to the best of your knowledge?
I would say at the higher levels, the CHL has really tried to take out the terrible aspects of it. But in the Alberta Junior Hockey League this past year, a captain and assistant were suspended for 14 games for hazing stuff going on. And that's what I worry about, the lower levels of things, AA hockey, AAA hockey, Junior C, Junior B. And I think it's still going on. And these are things that people say, well, you hate hockey. Why are you talking about this? I just want kids to play hockey and enjoy it and be protected. I love the game, certain aspects of the game, but it should be safe for people to come and play.
I'm going to share some numbers with you and our viewers here. In 2021, surveys found that 41% of families in all the major junior hockey leagues in Canada, CHL, say there's a problem with harassment in the game. 41%, compared to 19% of general managers feeling the same way. 2 more numbers. 24% of those surveyed said there's a problem with discrimination in the game. 24. Only 16% of general managers thought there was. That's a reality gap. Why does that gap exist?
Well, I think it's easy for the people involved to say that there's an issue, but when you're in control of the game, like we have people that run teams that are the coaches and general managers of a team. So if you have an issue, you report it to the coach. Well, sometimes that coach is the general manager and everybody's tied in. So it's easy for them to say there isn't a problem, because as a player, I never really felt comfortable going to my coach and saying, I would never say, oh, so-and-so bullied me or this was happening, because they say, we would trade you. So I think that's the issue. And that's the issue that you see in those statistics. And a lot of that's from the Turnpenny report that was released in 2018. And the CHL tried to bury that report. And they would only report about things that happened from after 2016 or 2018 when they did the report. So we're not even diving into 2010, 2012, or 2003 or way back. So these are current numbers, and those numbers are even protected.
Turnpenny is Rachel Turnpenny, who's a Toronto lawyer who gets called in to investigate some of these situations from time to time. Let's talk a bit about, your junior career, Kingston Frontenacs, Ontario Hockey League. Great team, great league. Not a lot, but a certain percentage of folks from that league go on to play in the National Hockey League. You got drafted in 1996 by the Washington Capitals, 85th pick. What was that, 3rd round?
I think it was 4th round then.
4th round?
Yeah.
Zdeno Chara was in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
So same year as the Big Z. You looked like you were on your way to the NHL. What happened to make it take a turn for the worse?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, sometimes you show up and you realize maybe you're not good enough, and you see other players, and playing in the Canadian Hockey League, you think it's a be-all, end-all, but then you show up to training camp and there's people from Finland and Sweden and players you never heard of that were really good. But for me, my problem was I had a major concussion the year after the draft, and I had a minor scrape of the law that was something that never should have happened, but it happened. And it seems like anything that could have happened the year after I got drafted, and was not something you'd want after being picked.
Okay, the minor scrape at the law was kind of it's actually a very funny story. It's in the book. I won't ruin it for those who want to buy the book. But the concussion is serious business. Tell us how that concussion happened and how the team you played for at the time handled it.
I was playing for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, and we were playing in Detroit. I took a late hit against the boards, and I was unconscious on the ice, and I had a fencing response. So if anyone watched Miami Dolphins game last year, their quarterback, it's where your hands kind of go stiff. And I was unconscious for 2 or 3 minutes on the ice. I was taken to the training room where I came to, and then I was put on the bus. On the bus, I was throwing up everywhere and in and out of consciousness. And they were trying to sneak me across to Canada because they didn't want to pay the U.S. medical bills. And the trainer finally, the last time I threw up, said we need to get him to the hospital. and they dropped me off at the hospital, and I got a CT scan. I had major bleeding on the brain, was rushed to intensive care, and I was left there by myself in intensive care. And the bus continued home to Sault Ste. Marie, and my mom ended up driving that night to join me. And after the fact, after I was in there for 3 or 4 days and returned home, I was given the bill for the CT scans and the care in the U.S. and was told that my contract in the OHL did not cover U.S. medical expenses.
Was it 17 grand, the bill?
Yeah, 17 grand. And my parents contacted my agent, Alan Walsh, who's a well-known agent that takes care of his players, and he told them that that's fine, we'll pay the bill, but we'll let everybody know how you take care of your players.
I mean, that's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think at the time you talked earlier about, are you afraid to speak up? I think even at the time, I was afraid for my parents to speak up, and I wanted them to pay the $16,000 because I didn't want to lose my spot in the team and be the guy that's a problem in the dressing room. But looking back on it now, I mean, they promise all these things, and then here's someone that won't even take care of your medical bills.
In your third year in the Ontario Hockey League, you're playing for the Sioux, you got a new coach, and you write, if I had to choose one coach not to emulate in any way, it would be him. You want to name him?
No, I don't think I'm comfortable naming him right now, but I will say that we've talked this past year, and he's reached out and he's opened, I think, my eyes to some things that were going on behind the scenes with the general manager. And the general manager at the time, Dave Mayville, I feel like was the root of a lot of that was going on. And he was a newer coach that things happened with him, and he's apologized. And I think to have this many years later to reach out and being a high-profile coach, I'm actually happy he did that. But realizing now there's some things behind the scenes and things that I wished weren't true were actually true in the way that I was treated. And you just wish some people would be called to task for some of the things that they did.
One of the things I was happy to read about in the book is that the greatest junior coach of all time, Brian Killer Kilrea, actually knew of you when you were in the Sioux, decided to trade for you because he said, I think I can turn him into something. He always played well against us.
Yeah.
I think I can turn him into something. And it worked out. You had a great run with Killer Kilrea's Ottawa 67s. What made it great?
It was the first time you were treated as a human being. So I remember when he traded for me, he waited for me in the dressing room and said, you're coming back with me. And I lived at his house with him for 2 or 3 days. And though he's this boisterous, loud guy, if you made a mistake, he'd yell at you from across the ice, and he'd take that sneaky little path so the fans couldn't really see and try and sneak in the bench. But after the game, when you thought he hated you or that you made the worst mistake ever, he'd ask how your parents were doing, and he'd say, here's some gas money for the way home, and he'd actually ask how you were doing. So it was the first time, it seemed simple, where he treated me as a human being and he let us play. We were in the same practice every day for 2 years, but it was high-paced, and it was just creativity was expected, and he let us play hockey.
What's the story about him saying to one of his players, if I beat you out on the ice, all these guys are going to have, go ahead, you know the one I'm referring to.
Yeah, I mean, his best line, my favorite line is he'd look at you and say, Davis, I don't know if you're playing right wing for us or left wing for them. That used to be, and I still use that coaching now, but yeah, one of the guys was late for practice one day, and I remember Brian Kilrea, probably 65 years old, 70 years old at the time, said, if I beat you out on the ice before you get dressed, then the whole team's skating. And I just remember him going into his office and coming out about 20 seconds later with just a hat and a whistle and his skates on, his gloves, saying, I beat you, we're skating, and just that little chuckle that he'd have. And he was just such a funny guy, and it felt like you're being coached by your grandfather.
Hat, gloves, stick, whistle, skates, and nothing else.
No, just Brian Kilrea.
Okay. All right, let's do this. We started with a quote about you really not liking hockey, hating hockey, but then through playing for Killer Kilrea, and then after that you went to the University of Western Ontario, as it then was, now Western University. You won a Memorial Cup with Kilrea, you won a university championship at Western. Did all of that rekindle some love of the game for you?
Yeah, for sure. I remember that. Remember that last year in Ottawa when we won the Memorial Cup. I just remember I had the opportunity to assist on the game-winning goal, and I just remember walking to a bathroom stall in the dressing room and just sitting there by myself in my equipment and just kind of tears flowing, just I mean, you have the joy of winning, but it was just seeing all the things that you'd been through, and just that joy of playing hockey again was brought back. And then that led me going to Western. I realized where I was in the hockey world, and I could play professionally after, but if I got my education and did that, and surrounded by Clark Singer and just a great program at Western, I left there and I just realized why I love the game. And the whole book is, there's a love-hate relationship with it.
Now, you sort of threw that away there. You assisted on the Memorial Cup winning goal in triple overtime?
That one was it was the first overtime.
First overtime?
And then at Western, we won in triple overtime.
Okay, so you had some pretty dramatic, exciting moments there.
Yeah.
And I see you're smiling, so you still love them.
Well, those are the good moments. When people say, do you hate hockey? I love those moments, and those teammates are some of my best friends and moments I'll never forget.
You also talked in the book about how you got that scar on your upper lip, and I must confess, when you described it in the book, I thought that's pretty gross, but I'm sure you got a good plastic surgeon, and you probably can't even see it anymore. I got news for you, Justin. I can see it. You've got a good souvenir from your playing days there, right?
Well, don't tell my mom. My mom's been on me for about 20 years to get that fixed, but the book's called Conflicted Scars, and that's one of the outward scars that is a part of me.
You've got a quote in here from Jamie McLennan, who's TSN, formerly a goalie, who said, "Hockey is 95% amazing, but the 5%. There are serious issues there, and they have to be dealt with." What's the biggest obstacle to getting that 5% that's a problem dealt with?
I think it's diversity in the game. I think you look at coaching, it's the same coaches that get recycled. It's the same general managers that get recycled. People get fired, people get hired. And it's the same way of thinking. There's females getting hired now in front offices and in coaching staffs, which is great. It's a different aspect for people. People that didn't play hockey at a high level, that understand the game and understand different numbers. And that's a huge change for it. And then they can look from the outside. I remember telling stories in my staff room. I'm a teacher, and telling stories to some of the people that I work with, and them just looking at me and thinking that's the craziest thing they've ever heard. But in a hockey room and the people I hang out with, those are normal stories. So I think when I say diversity and different voices, I think that changes things, so people don't realize the things that we view as being normal. They realize that they're very abnormal.
You won a championship, the Memorial Cup, which is junior hockey. You won a championship with Western in the university hockey. You won the Allen Cup, which is a championship for senior men's hockey. So you've had your share of success, and you played in Germany too. You played overseas as well, made some money playing over there. My question is there a part of you today that wishes, I wish I had a cup of coffee in the NHL?
There was a time where I said I would have done anything for it, but I have friends that played a game or two or played 2 seasons in the NHL, and I see where their life has taken them and their relationship with their family. And I mean, if I could have played, great, but I mean, I've been married for over 20 years. I've got 3 great kids. I love my job teaching where I teach, and I wouldn't throw anything away that's happened. And I think we're all meant to be. There's a purpose to our life why we're in certain places. And when I look back in my career, even how I'm here talking to you and I've written a book, I think without the bad things being happen and me being more successful maybe in hockey, I wouldn't have the voice that I have to talk right now and see some change in the game. That's
true, and I don't mean to be a mercenary about this, but what did you get paid to play in Germany the last year you were there?
I think we were about 4,000 euros a month, which was good for paying off my student debt. But the good thing about Germany is you don't pay for anything once you're there, so everything's covered. And the best part about going is you only play 2 games a week, so travel is limited.
I get that, but had you played even 1 season in the NHL, you'd have made $750,000 as the lowest salary you could have made.
Right, but then you see that when you make the $1 million, you buy the $1 million suits and the $1 million cars. I mean, guys I played with that got minimal bonuses and were buying Land Rovers and expensive suits, and I learned to be a thousandaire from a young age.
Good for you. The book was a terrific read, and you've got some really important things to say in there, so I'm glad you said them. Conflicted Scars, an average player's journey to the NHL. Justin Davis. Thanks, Justin.
Perfect, thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.